All right. Good morning, everybody. Today's date is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. This is a call to order for the Technical Review Committee. Members present today, we have Carol Craig from the Conservation Commission, Susan Axelrod from the Planning Department, or rather the Planning Board, Mark Conboy, Town Engineer, Richard Bourbonnais, the Director of Public Services, Dennis Bernier, Union Fire District Fire Marshal, as well as Lynn Smith from Planning Associate, and myself filling in as the chairman for the TRC in lieu of Jamie Rabbitt's absence. Second item on the agenda is approval of minutes. No minutes at this time, so we'll move forward to item C, TRC review, minor subdivision preliminary plan. J. Robbins, minor subdivision. Applicant is proposing 2-lot conventional minor subdivision of the property associated with site improvements proposed for a single-family residential development. Assessor's Plat 76-1, Lot 3, located at 380 Camp Fuller Road. Applicant owner is Jeffrey Robbins. Jeff, you want to come up?
That one? Yep. That sounds right. I apologize for being late.
So you were here last month. Do you want to just go over some of the outstanding items? I'll bring up the, there you go. I brought up the proposed site plan, but if you want to go over some of the questions that were brought up at the last hearing.
Yeah, I believe the biggest thoughts or concerns about the project was more centered on the road and the 4 or 5 areas that were identified to be of interest when the 20 acres across the street from me went for their 4-lot subdivision. And I think the focus was on those areas more than the actual house or anything that we're doing on the lot. So I've addressed, well, we've had meetings. Mr. Bourbonnais and I and Mr. Rabbitt and I have had several meetings to go over those areas. I thought we came up with a couple of solutions, but I'll let Rich address those. I don't know what the final findings were outside of what we had talked about.
Want me to go? So I went out there. Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about this. I think, in fact, you represented pretty well where you're at on all of it. The, so areas 1, 3, and 5 are perfectly fine, and I think they were even all those years ago, but 2 and 4 was still a problem here, and there's still sort of a problem out there, but it looks like section 4 has been lowered, right? And that was part of the crown of the road to be cut down. It said not completed here, and it's come down at least a foot.
I thought maybe a foot, foot and a half.
And I think it's fine. It's also widened out at the top of the hill. There's a pad there, so you can actually, if you're coming from the main entrance, yeah.
Yep.
You're able to even pull off, even if it's on the other side, that's okay, but at least you can see.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
and
agree with you.
Since the last meeting, I've went down and widened it a bit, but obviously, but go ahead.
Well, so therein lies the problem. I don't know how that gets widened, and you talked about this. I just don't know how it gets widened.
Well,
without the wall, it's so steep on either side. I'm just not sure how that happens.
I think it's to the point, or where is the widening? The questions that we had come to was, when I originally, after the meeting, I went down and measured, probably the narrowest section was about 9 feet. And getting it in, and I don't think, fire trucks or other commercial vehicles have been getting down there fine over the years. 9 to 11 to 12 to 14, where is the, do I have to get to 14 or do I have to get to 11? Do I have to get to 12? And to get to 12, I think is doable. I think once you start asking for 14, 15, 16, you're going to undermine the stone walls.
I mean, I've got it at about 10 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's serpentines. So to get it to 12, I can get it to 12. I could probably get it to 12 without having to undermine what I think are the stone walls and anything else. And I think that's, sorry.
Interrupt you. For those of us who haven't been to TRC with you before, could you just take a second and explain what you're talking about?
Sure, let's call the road, I think it's 0.8 miles from Post Road to my house.
Well, let's go back even further. So the reason why we're even talking about these improvements on that road was because there was a 4 or 5 lot subdivision proposed years ago. And
Across the street.
across the street from his place.
My lot.
It was a large parcel, like 20 acres or something, and it was meant to be subdivided, but in order to get that approval, that owner was required to make these 5 improvements. Now, that person had been back and forth to the planning board a number of times for a renewal of that permit because they weren't doing the work, and they were looking to sell the project is really what they were doing. That gal ended up selling the property, and I guess the approval goes with it. I don't know.
Well, it
Oh,
lapsed.
No, it
It's lapsed. It's gone.
So it's gone. Right. So what we're trying to do is still say, some of these improvements have to happen, but whether it's on his back or not has been the question, because he's a single extra lot. That was like 4. So we're talking about those 5 sites, and I can actually show you this. These are where they are. This is from the original plan. So we're talking about these individual properties. In fact, you can take this too. This is a memo I had written up years ago. It might have been before you were even on the planning board, Susan. So anyways, Area 4, I don't know if it ever gets, I don't know if it ever gets to 14 feet. I don't know how that's possible.
I don't know either. And I think through our conversations, I thought it was a somewhat fair representation to say, okay, if 4 lots have to get to 14, 13-14, 1 lot goes to 12, the next person who comes in goes to 13, the next person goes to 14.
Well,
And it goes
but that's not necessarily good either, because then that person that has to go to 14 is doing extensive work compared to that 1 lot that you got at a.
If
go to
there
10.
is a 14.
If there is a 14.
Because
but
we
there
could
will
talk
be.
about
There will be.
potentiality
There will be,
forever.
because that large parcel is going to come back at some point. But all right, let's keep going. So Area 2 is a problem as well, though.
That one's, I think, easier to remedy.
It is. It's pushing back the brush.
Yes.
Right. But is that a problem for, how does it work? I mean, you guys have some sort of homeowners association, so.
We have a road association.
So you can.
So I can work with the road association to widen that, to do the brush cutting, to do.
It's brush cutting.
Correct.
It's just that you
Yeah,
can't,
I mean-
it's very, very narrow. In fact, it's even worse, I think, than 4 right now because it's so narrow, but.
Yeah, I mean, I went and cleared 4, the sides of 4.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, Adam, do you want to do it this weekend? Jeff, I'm free, you go brush cut it this weekend. So we work together.
It's just that 4 is that with the trees, you're eliminating all those trees. If it goes to 13 or 14, all those trees have to go, at least on one side.
Well, 1 or 2, yep.
And yeah, it's the land trust side. And this road actually traverses into the land trust through that area, I believe.
Yeah, they own both sides of the road, but
Okay.
I think they own the stone walls on both sides. But there is I whatever the legal jargon is.
Yeah, it's an
that we can
access
ma-
easement or something, yeah.
Yeah, that
whatever
we
you
can
have, right.
maintain the road to a safe and blah, blah, blah standard, or whatever the jargon is. So we have the right to do, so if you tell me that 12 is more safer, Jeff, than 9, then we have the right to go to 12. Or if you say to 14 is blah, blah, blah. Now, if 14 undermines the stone walls, then we get into a grayer area.
Right.
So does this need to be amended then, because it only refers to 14 on both your area 2 and your area 4? So we,
Turn your microphone on. There you go.
do we need to amend this document from 2018? Because it clearly just states the 14-foot. So you're talking about like maybe making that a lesser requirement?
I think that we talked a little bit last time here, that perhaps you take it so far, the next one takes it so far, like you're saying, but you're still involved. Like you still may be obligated to get it to 13 or something.
That's where I think the gray area is that 4 lots had to go to 14, 1 goes to 12. Am I on the hook for doing a 4-lot subdivision when I'm only asking for 1?
No, you share in the going to 13. I think I don't know, 14 is not gonna happen.
Sorry, so can I ask for some more clarification? Is there an ordinance that triggers a certain number of houses, requires a certain, like, what's triggered this improvement
It's-
requirement?
It's not. He's.
That's the thing.
I think that he's in a tough spot because there's nothing that triggers it. And this was a recommendation of the planning board at the time for this person to get this development. But because it's already sort of, I think it would be unsavory for the town now to say, well, you go ahead and do what you want, and the next guy go ahead and do what you want, and the next guy do what you want, because they're all doing 1 or 2 lots, when we've already requested this of somebody with 4 lots.
No, and I'm fine with if 4 got this, 1 would have to do this, 2 would have to do this. If we get up to that point, then yes, we would have to go back to what, and I think this might answer your question, is that when 4 lots got approved, they had to go to 13. TO 14, 13 to 14. That was the recommendation of the planning board. That's in writing now, so I'm only asking for 1. There is nothing that says I have to do anything. There's nothing that say that I have to do to 20. We're trying to say that it would make sense, and I think that's kind of the quasi-agreement that we thought was reasonable, was that, okay, if 3 have to get to 14 or 13, 1 would have to go to 12, 2 would have to go, and make your way up to the 3 lots or 4 lots that got approved in 2018, even though that's null and void now.
Is that 14 that was required in that original 2018 thing required for safety on that road? Like, what precipitated that number? Like,
That is a
like
good-
what-
I think
That's a
it
good
was,
question.
I think it was a staff decision or a planning board decision to go with that particular number
Like if-
based on increasing the intensity of the road.
Like, if he was here asking for a 4-lot subdivision, right, and that didn't exist, would we come up with that? You know what I'm saying, for
Well, that's hard- well,
safety on that
That's-
road?
That's hard to
Who
say
knows?
what the planning board would
Like,
do.
if a planning board was sitting there looking at a new project, which has nothing to do with you, would we come up with this now? Or is this arbitrary, like, you know what I'm saying, like,
Well, this could have come from
Well-
DPS at the time. I mean, this goes back a
This,
while.
I think was anybody there besides me? Lynn, you might have been there, in 2018 when they were trying to get this. The biggest concern that I recall was
Well, this was
safety.
before 20.
Was emergency vehicles being able to come up and down the road.
can they now?
Absolutely. I mean, Dennis can address it, because we had at the last meeting that fire trucks go down monthly. 18-wheelers go down there.
There's buses that go down there.
I sent Mr. Bourbonnais, when I was working on that, 3 gigantic tour buses went by and I had to pull over. And just, I mean, Dennis, go ahead, if you could.
Thank you very much. To address this issue, yes, Jeff's worked very well on this. I will give him a compliment on that side as far as allowing us the access and widening the road. There is an NFPA standard for fire department access for vehicles, and as of the houses in the back, Camp Fuller, but now the road is private, we can suggest it on the fire side, and they're requesting a 20-foot wide easement, which this is definitely not going to happen. The front end of my trucks that go through there, I should say the fire trucks, are 8 feet. He's currently at 9, which gives us plenty of clearance. So I think that might have been, I did not sit back then, I don't know, but the NFPA code has been in effect since 2018 on that.
And there are pull-offs.
That is correct.
If we're trying to get in there, somebody can get out of your way.
That is correct.
Yeah, and even in this area 4, which I think is the most critical, there are pull-offs both at the bottom and the top. There's like a hill, there's a little mountain. There's pull-off both at the top, the very top, which is actually very nice because you can at least, it's not like beyond the hill, right? So you can actually see all the way down, and then there's a pull-off at the base of this, it's about maybe 200 feet. You can see both, and I was there, and I was able, there were cars coming, so I was able to work it.
So,
But, okay.
I was going to say, the last meeting, you were going to inspect and do an assessment of the checklist and see what on the list had been
So-
satisfied since 2018?
So, well, this is actually, I think this was from 2000, maybe 16, or how long does a permit last for a planning permit?
Depends if they get an extension.
So, no, I'm
It
just
may
saying
have been 2011.
The initial permit, is it 2 years? Okay, so this would have been 2016, because this was from 2018, was my memo, which would have been their first request to extend it.
That sounds
So
about
I
right.
believe that it was 2006, because it was before I was here.
Yep.
But I'm going to bet that these items came from engineering or John Schock as the
Yeah.
director, and they were recommendations to the council, to the planning board on the approval of the subdivision. That's what I'm going to bet, but I can't say that unless I read the minutes, I wouldn't know that.
Would you come up with those today if this was a brand new thing and John had never weighed in?
You turn on the mic?
Yeah, ask that again.
Is this the same recommendation that you would instill today if this was brand new and that had never existed?
I would, no.
But again, that
No.
was for 4 lots, I'm asking for 1.
Right, but I'm always concerned, yeah, but that's, I think, that's a perfectly valid question, because we think about incremental changes all the time. So I always am, because especially with drainage, I'm always thinking about incremental changes. So yes, I would come up with something, but it wouldn't be 13 to 14 feet. Like, I would have said 12, right? For even the 4 lots. Because when you drive through there, I'm telling you, it is not possible. I mean, really, anything's possible, but.
And I'm saying that I would be okay with 12.
Well, so,
I-
but I can't, okay.
So is it only 12 up until your driveway?
No,
Or is
no,
it the
it's
entire
it's
length?
12 in a,
Oh, no, this is a
80-foot
200
section?
foot, yeah, maybe it's 100 foot, yeah. Maybe.
it's an 80-foot section over the course of 0.8 of a mile.
But past your house too, like all the way down, or
Oh,
just?
no, it's just the 5 sections, and we're just talking about one 80-foot section in the entire road.
What it
But
does,
it's
it
not
goes wide-
narrow.
It goes wide, then it goes like this, it drops down to nothing.
And then it goes back to wide?
Yeah.
Yes,
So it's that, okay.
it's just that one
There's
section.
two. Well,
I'm
there's
sorry,
2
I'm so late to
sections.
the party, I've missed
No,
all
That's
the
okay,
history.
That's okay. There are 2 sections
Yes.
that are most critical right now. What happened was they received money, Moonrise Kingdom,
Yeah, what,
the
yeah,
movie.
with the movie?
The movie. They came in, they received money from that, they redid the whole entrance, they widened it all out, it's much, much nicer and a lot easier to navigate. So that, item 1 went away very quickly. And then the number 3 got widened out, it looks great. And then section 5 got widened out, it looks great. But
Yep.
2 and 4 are way more difficult.
Yeah, and I'm okay with 12. It's just if you make me go to 14, then it's going to be a lot more difficult.
And I think that it would really kind of destroy the character of that little section, frankly, but.
But if you weren't okay with 12, do we have the authority to require 12? Like, he's being pretty cooperative here. Is this something that we have an ordinance or some kind of subdivision ruling where we would require 12, even if he wasn't being so cooperative? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's an existing.
Yeah, and I could just say that if a one-way traffic by ordinance is required to have a minimum of 12 feet, so I think trying to get that, knowing that it's a two-way road, but there's turn-offs, correct?
Yeah.
In sight distance, so
Yep.
vehicle operators know if there's oncoming traffic. So I think 12 would be, by ordinance, something to achieve if you could. Do we want to go around the room or chew on this a little bit more?
You know, so the other thing, though, is I would ask that as part of this application, though, that section 2's got to be widened out with the vegetation.
Absolutely.
I think, and we've talked about that.
Oh, yeah, no, I could, yes, that's, we typically do it twice a year, once in the spring and once we have a community thing that we do around Thanksgiving. And I don't know if you went down since it got graded, because the road is in really good condition.
No, I went down yesterday, it looks great.
Yeah, so, yeah, long backstory made short is the camp used to have a guy that did all of that spring clearing. The camp got rid of that position, so now we've taken it on. So now it's who's available next weekend to do it. So yes, the clearing of that will get done. But if you want to put it in the ordinance, that's absolutely fine.
Is this the only item still outstanding on this application?
This is really all we're talking
Yeah.
about.
It's the only issue.
You know, hold it up much more.
So if that was a condition, are we clear that it's actually, it's not the vegetation, it's the road that needs to be widened to 12 in specific zones?
Is that what you just, what Jay's asking, is it 12 feet on that section 2 as well?
No, I'm not. You're talking about section 2?
Section, yeah, right by Gina's house. No.
No, that was only the vegetation.
Yeah, because that has a much clearer sight line. I assume that's what you mean.
This
Rich.
says raised road grade, all those things. I'm not, and then widen road to 14 feet on section 2 as well.
Is it sightline or is it vehicle tire width? Like, what's the vegetation?
It's,
The vegetation is, on section 2, it comes up about 18 inches and then goes up like this, and the vegetation has since overgrown this part.
yeah, so it's real narrow, but,
But that has a much clearer sight line than 4. So if you could say that 2 is vegetation and 4 is 12 and vegetation, but you didn't recognize the vegetation probably because I had cleared it, but I don't know if that needs to be part of the,
I don't know
I think
how.
I think the vegetation is something that it would be,
Malleable.
they would have to, as the association would maintain that, but I think the widening of the
What
road.
I don't know how it happens, and, but how do we incrementally address again? Like, if we say to Jeff, listen, you gotta go to 12 feet on that section 4, which I think would be a tremendous improvement, and then clear the vegetation at section 2. Well, but section 2 really needs to go to 14, and section 4 could need more widening, but how does that happen at the next one? I don't know how that gets.
You're saying at the next subdivision?
Yeah, the next time somebody comes in, especially that large lot across from Jeff, it's like, I don't know, that eventually that's gonna be developed. It's a big parcel. Probably the big.
matter?
Well, so,
Will this even become an issue?
so if that next lot comes in, we would already have a record of it. I mean, it's been well documented.
And then if the stone walls are the limiting factor, do we really want anyone to go to 14 in that section and mess up those stone walls? Like, would we even request that now, because that will change I haven't driven there, so I don't know, but that sounds like it will change everything.
That's that. So I agree that I don't know that you'd ever go wider than 12, but section 2, are you saying that can't be widened as well? I mean,
No, I didn't spend any time measuring that one. I can scrape the sides of that as well.
All right, so that would be my recommendation, that we do these section 2 and 3, and 2 and 4, and we go to 12.
On both.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that doable?
I'll figure it out. I think the brush clearing on 2 will make a tremendous difference, and then I'll be able to judge it more.
Do we want to go around the room?
I do, but I do sympathize. I just want to be clear. I'm not.
I get it, because I'm not the last. I completely understand that. And like I said, I've been there for 15 years, and I'll be there for another 30, so I get it. I don't want anything.
And I also want to point out that the person on that larger parcel could not get a final approval because they hadn't made those road improvements,
Correct.
and then sold it as one large parcel because they couldn't get a final.
Or she lived out west. I don't think she wanted to deal with it. And the reason the rest of the road was improved was because as a collective on the road, and in talking to the fire marshal and everything else, was we got to do some of these things just for safety. So when we're coming around 5, I can see clearly towards and we can do this, this, and this. So it's, we've done some things for that lot, purely for a safety perspective.
Right.
I'd just be curious if when in 2016 initially, if there was opponents to the subdivision, or was there a traffic study or engineer involved?
I think there was traffic studies. That's what I think. I think a lot of it came down to, and I know the 2 or 3, maybe 2 guys on the road that had been there since day one were mostly concerned with safety. I had a wife that, we needed to get a emergency vehicle down there and blah, blah, blah. So that was their biggest concern. And it's, 3 or 4 people have left since then, 3 new people have come in, so.
And there's been a number of improvements since that time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we didn't even have a road committee back then. Now we have a road committee, and we pay dues, and we have annual meetings, and we blah, 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 so.
okay, thank you. Anything else? Want to go around the room? Carol?
Yeah, I like the idea. We don't want to disturb those walls because I think they need to be maintained. I like the 12-foot. I think 12 feet, especially after hearing the width of the emergency vehicle being 8, that gives quite a bit of clearance, and that works with what Jeff is suggesting that he can actually do. I like it. Both Zone 2 or Area 2 and Area 4, if they could go to 12 and then keep the brush cut down, seems like a good idea to me.
Thank you, Carol. How about you, Susan?
I'm deferring all of my opinions to you guys because I don't know. This is not my department.
I know.
Their judgment is.
Well, I can bring up the site plan again if you want to, if there's any questions.
So if we
relative-
demand 12, do we have the capacity to, let's just say you move away, like how do we, like he's made a promise to do this, but do we have it,
I
is
think-
there a legal procedure for getting this as part of the road committee so that it outlives your participation in, like what's the mechanism
Meaning
here?
maintaining it 12, 20 years from now? Or are you
Yes.
saying
Yes.
in order to get my building permit?
No, so the building permit is a short term,
Yep, I go build my house, I live there for 5 years and I sell it.
yes. Like what's do we have a procedure for getting it into the long-term maintenance request of this whole road after this project is built?
So I think we could put a condition of approval on the subdivision, and then it would, that would be on record, filed on land evidence, but to put it on the burden of the HOA and the collective, I think would be difficult.
I think that would be difficult. Now, I think it would be the next guy coming in to say, it gets overgrown, it gets whatever, it gets down to 11, that guy has to, I understand what you're asking.
Like, it can't be on the one guy that buys your house after you leave. So how does it become a road commitment, a road committee commitment? It can't be on the one guy that buys either your house or your new house.
I think what Jamie's saying is now
This
my
is-
approval is subject to everybody on the road or the road committee?
And the widening isn't actually on his property, so it's on the easement portion, correct?
Correct.
So I think in turn it falls on the committee in the long term, although it would only be on the record plan because there's not, I mean, are there covenants filed in land evidence
For what? For
for the
that?
association?
Oh, I'm assuming so.
I think it'd be, if this was something more clear-cut, like a subdivision with, we don't know the interest of that portion of land, to put that on and to maintain it at a 12 in perpetuity, it might just fall on the owner of this property if in the future, though, it encroached
That's,
further.
I think that's probably the fairest way to deal with it, that it becomes part of my selling it to them, that they are responsible for it, if that's what you choose to say. Where now you're individualizing different areas of road improvement. And I don't know if that's, I'm required to widen it to 12. Now you're talking about a heavy spring rain and drainage and it collapsing to 11 and a half, and is Rich going to come out every scheduled 6 months to check on it? No. I think that would be difficult, where I think if anything,
I think in time, if there was we noticed that it was impeding, emergency vehicle access, then the town could take action and issue a notice, or, if.
correct, that's, yes.
Based on that condition. But I think to send it to every interested property owner would be difficult. It'd be more likely to fall on the individual.
But I'm trying to imagine you knocking on the door of the guy that buys this house 10 years from now and telling him that it's his responsibility to maintain that section of road that isn't even in front of his house. Like that's, and like, I don't know, I'm just looking logistically, this is going to be a longer term commitment than, this could be 20, 30 years in the future. Who's
Well,
knocking on someone's door and saying you have to go maintain a roadway that isn't in front of your house? Like that logistically just sounds like it's going to not be feasible to me.
Well, no, it's not. And I think that what's going to happen is that they're going to collectively just say, we got to go and get it back to what it was over the years. When he gets an approval for an extra lot, he's going to be asked to widen it to a certain level, and then he's done. So
Yeah.
it's going to be up to them. It's going to be up to them to maintain it, but we're not going to go down there on a regular basis and knock on whoever's door to say, you
And I
are obligated.
I think the good example of that is the 4 other areas, let's call it the 3 other areas. We weren't asked to fix those 3 areas. But as a safety standard, we as a collective chose to improve those. We weren't even asked to do them. The 4-lot subdivision was asked to do them. So we've since continued to maintain the clearing on 5. We did 1, we did 3. So as a committee, yeah, I think it's good faith that we maintain those. But as a responsibility, I'm responsible for clearing it the one time.
Getting it to a certain point. Right now, it's not at that. It's narrow. I think that Jeff's already widened it a bit.
Yeah.
It was more narrow. You could tell where it's been cut. But, long-term, it's going to be up to the homeowner association to just maintain it. But the next person that comes in to do a subdivision, then we'll have the opportunity to look at it again, make sure it's maintained, and we will have the opportunity to say, well, no, you haven't been maintaining it. You've got to go back and clear it out again.
So the next person comes in, it's 5 years down the road, is that person going to get the same demand that 12-foot section be restored to its 12-foot section? And, what I'm saying, like, will we only be able to require require, not voluntary, require maintenance as the next subdivision happens? If we can't, legally, can't require him to do it after the house is built, and we can't ask the homeowners association to add it into their charge, then you've got no power 5 years from now if it's all overgrown, right? Like,
Well, no,
you-
if somebody
you-
else
you-
comes in,
if someone else comes in,
Yeah.
then it's going to be their job to widen or reestablish this section if it's gotten overgrown.
Correct. That's
And so
right.
we're just going to sort of leap through the generations of just, you know what I'm saying? Like,
If it's necessary. I don't know how else you would, I don't know how else you would handle it. I mean, we can't,
That's
he's
fine
not
if it's
here
acceptable.
representing the homeowners association.
I think being a private road, it's a private matter to some degree, right? So if, you know, the next bite of the apple is in 5 years, it would be the burden of, you know, that property owner subdividing to do improvements.
Just as it is mine now.
Yeah.
so is it ever a risk, if we never get another application down there, for emergency vehicles to get down to Camp Fuller safely? Like, is the condition of the road, even if it gets overgrown, going to be a risk to people on that road?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but that's the problem we have with all private roads. That's the same issue we have with all private roads. They all could be under that, where they don't maintain it. This is actually much better maintained than many of our private roads, frankly. Especially now that we're...
To answer your question, yes. There will be access guaranteed. I mean, the fire marshals, we are back and forth to Camp Fuller. Every time Camp Fuller opens, there's always yearly inspection, and that will continue. And when we do find that there is egress issues, we do approach the people that live on the road or the town to go through and help assist us to make access. Before Jeff showing up, that's what we used to have to do.
I mean, that camp has been 1936, I think.
Yes, sir. And
so-
that, there were sections of that road, and I believe they were only 8 feet wide, and the chair did bring something up that, yes, we have damaged vehicles, but we do get back there. And that was before we had the grace of allowing them, or them working with us to widen it. I mean, prior to all this, we did ask that they would clear brush and widen it, and they did step right up for us so that we could get access back and forth. Yes, it's an ongoing issue. I understand that. The vegetation is an issue. But like I say, we're down there yearly. We're down there every spring. When we do run into a problem, we just start making phone calls on the fire side, and they've been more than gracious to work with us. I hate to say we're the ones enforcing that, but back to what was mentioned, we have other private roads where I drive down, and we ask for a little bit wider access and basically are denied. So.
Thank you.
Does that help?
What's that?
Does that help?
Yeah, it's just the issue of enforcement and how that comes about if our applicant wasn't so cooperative.
I would think that there is precedence in terms of the 95 years that emergency vehicles have been going down there. And that in the last 15 years, we've significantly improved the road. And I think what done is, if there's ever been an issue, that we've addressed it. And now we have a board to address it.
Yeah, so I think there's a line where, you know, to bring it up to the current standards would ruin or diminish the rustic character if it was going to be 20 feet wide asphalt. So over time, you know, the next person coming in to subdivide, you know, it sounds like they might not have much to improve if, you know, if you stay on track.
That's up to the planning board. But yes, we've had more than one conversation about asphalting the entire thing, and the old timers saying that it becomes a racetrack, and speed bumps, but that's a private road thing, so you don't have to be privy to those conversations.
All right. Is that it, Susan?
Yeah.
Mark?
I really don't have anything further to add to that. I mean, to me, this is only for the improvement of one lot, for the creation of one lot. So, you know, I feel that everything that's been talked about has pretty much been ironed out here.
Rich?
No, I'm done.
Dennis?
I'm in favor of the widening, and I have nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, so if, if the applicant's amenable to widening the section, we're talking about specifically areas or zones 2 and 4 to a width of 12 feet? Is that correct?
Are we doing 2 to 12? Or are we doing 2 to just vegetation?
I would ask that,
It's fine.
okay.
Well, yes, Jamie, yes, 12
Just
on each.
work it to 12. if you-
Okay.
Okay.
So this will be a condition that the planning board will put on to an approval when we see it.
I'm not sure this...
Oh, we won't see it?
This
It's
is-
just administrative?
It's administrative.
Correct. So this will go to Jamie Rabbit for review, and I'd expect that these would have to be completed before he signs.
Correct, yes, and then I'll have to sign that, and we'll have to get the, what is it? You guys know better than I do. I had the engineer draw out, yeah, I think there's one other piece of paper that has to happen in terms of the
You got to do a...
north at, so many degrees is by this degrees, it has to get written a certain way, but yes, I have to go in and sign the approval from the town planner, not you guys.
Oh, that's the recorded deed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am curious on how that chronology works.
Yeah, so I mean, if favorable motion with a condition, this would then go to Jamie, the AO's, desk, and he'd review and contact you.
Yep, and then I come in and sign it, and then that gets recorded.
I'm sure he'll advise you on the
Yes.
process.
I'll go see them.
So with that being said, anybody want to make a favorable motion and include that condition?
Yeah, I'll make that motion with those conditions, yeah.
I can second that.
Nice.
Motion made by Rich, second by Susan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
Thank you. I apologize again for being late.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
It looks like the next item never showed up, so item E is adjournment. Anybody want to make a motion? I'll make a motion to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.